So I've been a landlord for nearly 15 years now, and I started out, so it was the financial recession actually, and so it actually was a good time to be buying property. Like a lot of landlords, the first thing I did is phoned some letting agents just to get the lie of the land for the Glasgow market. And one of the people that I called was Jack, and he was just unbelievably helpful and insightful. And my plan always was to have more than one property and to build a little property portfolio. So I set off doing that. He gave me some really great advice about areas to look for, and the first flat that I bought was in one of the areas that Jack suggested. So I worked on the basis of the old adage of buying the worst property in the best street. All of my properties needed quite a lot of renovation, and so it took a while to get the whole portfolio together. So I've got 7 flats and a shop that I have in my portfolio. So that's when I first met Jack, and um, he just understood the market so well and was so um, open with all the information that he was willing to just share with you about the pitfalls and the good and the bad things about being a landlord. Um, when it came to letting my properties, I came back to Western Lettings and asked them to work with me on that. And I think, as I was saying to you earlier, actually finding a good tenant is, I think, the most important part of the whole process. A good match for you, a good match for your property. Um, they're very thorough at Western Lettings and how they go about that. They don't just do a credit check. They really kind of get to know the people, the prospective tenants, and think about what you're looking for in a tenant. And a successful landlord-tenant relationship really relies on everybody being very open and very straight. And obviously, as all landlords went through the pandemic, we all had, varying experiences. It was a very challenging time. But I came out of it completely unscathed, pretty much. Again, good advice from Western Lettings in terms of setting rents and how to come and go with people that were maybe struggling with paying their rent, because it doesn't always go smoothly. People do, lose jobs, marriages break up, things do happen in tenancies. But if you've got a good property manager keeping you advised and coming back to you with, good information, these things can be navigated, but having that advice and having somebody that knows what they're doing um, through the process of selection of your tenant and managing the tenancy and ongoing, it's just invaluable. So that's been my relationship with Western Lettings. And yeah, no, I wouldn't. You can try and let your properties yourself and manage them all yourself, but it's a big job. It's a big job. There's a lot to do, and it's very regulated now. 15 years ago, it was a bit cowboy territory. You could pretty much do anything you wanted. There was very little regulation, and there's a lot in the press now about how terrible it is. If you're a good landlord and you've got a good tenant, um, all the regulation, although it's a lot to keep up with, and again, that's why having a good property team with you is very important. Then that relationship goes much more smoothly. It tends to fall apart when you've not got a good tenant, and things go wrong there. So that's been my experience with Western Lettings, and yep, they've been excellent. Another, but that was not a good experience at all. I think, like quite a lot of landlords, what you look for when you're first ever, you're looking for a good price, So they were local and they were quite inexpensive. But that is not how you find yourself a good letting agent. That's the opposite of what you want, because it's quite tricky actually, I think, to compare letting agents price wise. So a lot of landlords are very focused on what's the percentage I'm going to get charged. Is it going to be 8%, 10%? And that's, once you're signed up, there's usually a menu of things that you pay for, and not all letting agents are very open about what they charge and how much they charge, and they'll lead you in with a low entry point. They'll say, "Oh, we're only 8%," but then everything else you pay for is, pretty expensive. And also, a cheap price is not a good reflection of a good service. And the really expensive thing as a landlord is when is turning tenants over. That's when you've got a flat where every 6 months you've got a new tenant in. That's really expensive. That costs you a lot of money because every time you've got to get the flat back to its original standard, redecorate, all these different things. It's so important, because they've it's a big investment that they've made over the years. I've sort of been in the background watching it, and it really singles them out in terms of just getting stuff done, being interested in the day to day. So a lot of people are quite interested in the sort of the more glamorous side of it, the nice photographs and but they do all of that, and the virtual tours and everything. But what they're really focused on is just getting the work done. If you need a repair done, it gets done. If you need a certificate, it's in place before the date. All of that is the work of letting and being successful at it. And the systems that they've developed make sure that the staff are really supported in terms of they don't just have to remember everything. It's very automated. And also the landlords are kept really informed. You always know what's happening. So as soon as, for example, when you're letting a property, as soon as they have, a bank of viable tenants, about it, how that process is going, how the vetting process is going. You have like almost constant feedback in the whole process. And things don't just drop off somebody's desk and get forgotten about. They're very on it. It's been a big investment over years and years to get to this sort of level of service. They're not relying on one particular property manager having, everything in their head, which is pretty much how, even quite big letting agents, I think, now still run out of, quite paper-based and spreadsheets and stuff, and it's not that kind of business. And Jack seemed to understand that. I think with his background in IT and systems, he saw straight away the opportunity to professionalise lettings, and they've always gone about it. I used to tease him that his tagline should be "nice flats for nice people," because that's what they're really focused on. Making sure that they expect the quality. They expect the landlords to deliver a good quality as well. If you're one of their landlords, they expect you to be professional and keep your property up to repairing standard and deliver a quality home for the tenant. So it is a two-way street with them. They expect you to be a good landlord so that they can be a good letting agent, and the tenants get the kind of home that's is fair, and everybody should be able to have. So I think again that's quite unusual in that this idea that they have of making renting better, where it's a good experience for everyone, not just the landlords and over evil capitalists, but it's not just about. So they have quite high expectations for their landlords. They do expect you to toe the line and provide a very high quality service, but in return for that, what you get is good tenants. I don't know if you've seen their guarantee that they have, which is a number of, I can't remember them all off the top of my head, but they have this guarantee, which they don't actually shout very much about, but it's things like, that they'll always answer the phone, that they'll answer it within a certain time scale, that they'll always come back to you into a certain time. So they have these really quite demanding expectations of their staff for their landlords. But they do deliver on that. You don't phone them up and nobody picks up the phone, or you don't phone them up and ask for something that just disappears into the ether. They well, you kind of see that from the reviews when They're but quite a young staff, but they're very hardworking and really professional, well trained. They invest in putting them all through all of their training, so they know their stuff. I would say without doubt they're the most professional letting agent that you'll encounter in the west of Scotland. They're the best organised. They deliver such a high quality of service, and they're genuinely a really nice team. They're very easy to work with, and they'll get you a good tenant and they'll keep them happy.